Church, I've never been 100% sure of anything in my life. And when it comes to relationships, I've always felt that the goal is to find someone with the least amount of manageable problems, right? So if you're faced with someone who gives you 90% of what you want and you only have 10% worth of doubt, you must then decide if your 10% of doubt is worth losing your 90% of gain. I've got my notes. I hope y'all got yours. Let's get on into this damn mess. Y'all, so let's jump right on into Alexis and Justin, and let's talk about Justin giving up Maya to his friend. Now listen, I thought that this whole chapter of Maya was done. Okay, I thought we left her at the the little doggy rehab, and we was gonna see her over yonder maybe one day, or that was gonna be her new home. I didn't realize that there was an after conversation in terms of she can't stay there forever. Okay, so maybe that was just my mistake. Now listen, for me personally, I don't know if I would have been so hasty in giving up the dog to my friend that lives states away, right? I think I would have hedged my bet just a little bit, and I probably would have found a friend, a close associate, my mama, perhaps my brother who lives in San Diego or whatever, and I would have been like, listen, hold on to this dog for me until decision day, right? Because if we get to decision day and it's a no, then no harm, no foul. I pick up the dog, we go our merry way, right? But if we say yes on decision day, then I'm going to need you to hold on to this dog for at least 3 months post decision day, okay? Because within 3 months, post decision day, you'll be able to find out whether or not this situation is going to go the distance, right? When all the cameras are gone, when all the production is gone, when all the show elements are gone, you're going to be able to figure out if this situation has any legs to it and any sort of longevity to it, right? So I just don't believe in hasty decisions and totality based decisions regarding the dog, and especially decisions that you're going to later resent her for because you kind of blame her in a sense for it, even though it was your decision, right? Now let's move on to what the dog kind of meant for both of them, right? And through the episode, we just kind of see them in this kind of state of confusion in terms of what the dog means to Justin versus what the dog means to Alexis. And I'm a firm believer that for Alexis, Justin giving up the dog was more of a gesture of good faith for her comfortability in the relationship than it was anything else, right? Don't get me wrong. Justin giving up the dog, the decision surrounding it was in large part influenced by her comfortability, okay? She was not going to be in a relationship where, her dog, in terms of her dog Newton, was in danger, right? So yes, the dog couldn't be in the house, but that doesn't mean Justin necessarily needed to give away the dog in such a final based, decision, right? So for her, it was more of a gesture of good faith. For Justin, it seemed to be more of a be all and end all situation. And listen, y'all correct me if I'm wrong, but I kind of racked my brain going back through the episode trying to figure out where Alexis made any sort of confirmation, any sort of decision, any sort of inference, whether she alluded to, you giving up the dog is synonymous with me saying yes on decision day. Like, I can't find it. No matter where I look, no matter how much I think back, I don't ever remember her saying those words. So it leads me to believe that's more of an inference and a logical step that Justin made in his head in terms of the dog being, the be all and end all in terms of the longevity of our relationship, right? But the gag is, honey, y'all got many more problems besides the dog in terms of saying yes on decision day. So the dog could never be the be all and end all of the situation. But drop down in the comments and let me know if y'all peeped that same confusion, because I think that informed a large part of their argument this episode. Now, in terms of Justin needing the affirmation of yes on decision day and, Alexis only being 90% in, I understand that for the Married at First Sight couples, they teach you about togetherness, finding a way to move forward, finding a way to merge lives and XYZ. But when decision day hits, it truly is an individual decision, right? I've experienced this person for 8 weeks. Do I want my life to continue in the same manner that it has the past 8 weeks, in the future 8 weeks and beyond, right? So it's an individual decision. So I'm definitely team Alexis in the situation. Like, as I said in the intro, I've never been 100% sure about anything. And drop down in the comments if y'all have ever been 100% sure about any decision that you've made, right? But if you're 90% in, That's a really good percentage. And I think it's all about perspective, right? Because for Alexis, 90% is a big number because, baby, she a runner, she a track star, okay? And like, mama is used to like loving him and leaving him, right? And for Justin, that whole 10% of doubt means that, you don't love me, you don't see a future with me. But I think you kind of have to change your perspective on what that 10% really means. Like, you're never going to get, there are no perfect people. You're never going to get 100% of what you want in life, right? So you really have to come down to that individual decision on decision day. Do I want to go forward in the manner that we have been going forward? Do I see potential in this person? Is this person worth me, overlooking my 10% of doubt for, right? So I think it's just all about reformatting that whole 90%, 10%. And it can't be if Alexis says she's 90% in, then Justin is immediately, all the way 100% out. It literally cannot be. Decision day is an individual decision in light of how you've experienced this person for the last 8 weeks. Now let's move on to Lindy and Miguel and talk about this hot ass mess. Now, let me just change my energy real quick, okay? Because y'all this relationship need to end, okay? I'm about tired of Lindy and Miguel, and y'all drop down in the comments and let me know if y'all are tired too. I just feel like at this point, baby, we are beating a dead horse, and in the eternal words of Tony Childs from Girlfriends, baby, we are knitting a sweater for a dead dog, okay? Now let's get into it. So they had that huge big argument last week, and so what we see right now is the post argument reset and tiptoe. Listen, when you have a breakdown with somebody as dramatic as Lindy and Miguel's breakdown was, you kind of have one of two options. Either you address it all the way, or you kind of just decide we're going to go along to get along, and we're going to, address it a little bit lightly, but really just try to move past it, okay? And it seems like they kind of did some combination of the two. They addressed it lightly and still tried to go along to get along, but they were clearly tiptoeing around each other the whole episode until the end, right? Now let's talk about this whole argument regarding insurance and hyphenation, okay? So going back a few weeks, we had the issue of Lindy saying, if I got hit by a bus, you don't care, you won't give me your insurance, and this, this, that, and the third, right? So the main issue between the insurance and the hyphenation thing is that fair exchange is no robbery, right? The reason why Miguel feels slighted is because he didn't get anything out of the exchange. He has not gotten anything out of the situation. Let's look at it. Lindy got full health insurance benefits under Miguel, okay? And as I said before, baby, people discount how important health insurance is in this country, okay? There is a generation and a nation of people out there that ain't got health insurance, baby, and every time they got a sniffle underneath the nose or some rash on their arm, they got to call on the Lord, honey, go down to WebMD and hope for the best, or hit up one of their cousins and find out, if you got any extra antibiotic or medication left over from the last time that she was sick, in the eternal words of some more, baby, okay? Now listen, if Lindy would have gotten the health insurance and Miguel would have gotten the hyphenation in terms of, Eloy Santiago, I believe that's his last name. Y'all correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think that we'd even be having this conversation today. And honestly and truthfully, in my heart of hearts, the insurance trumps the name, okay? It truly does, because I guess just in my worldview, having access to a slew of doctors, a slew of insurance, a slew of options regarding your health is much more beneficial than any sort of hyphenation that hyphenation issue that would cause me in terms of a loss of identity, right? You've already made the compromise in terms of, I'm not going to be Lindy Santiago. I'm going to be Lindy Eloy Santiago, right? So I'm keeping a piece of my identity while merging it with my husband's, okay? So listen, at the end of the day, both of these situations, they're relatively easy to get out of if you think about it, okay? Where there's a will, there's a way. If it doesn't work out post-decision day, all Miguel got to do is, tootsie roll on down to HR or send some damn paperwork down to his insurance and say, listen, please remove her from my insurance going forward, okay? Now, in that case, Lindy, baby, listen, the way insurance work is it's a 30-day delay, okay? So go to every single doctor you can within the 30-day period before he kick your ass off, okay? But listen, and on the Lindy side, Baby, you just got to file some paperwork at the Social Security damn administration and don't change all your damn credit cards and everything to his last name, okay? It's very easy to get out of. And I think it's more so the gesture not being followed through than anything in the situation. Fair exchange is no robbery. And if, Lindy got the insurance and Miguel got the hyphenation that he wanted, I don't think it would have been that big of an issue. Now let's get into the central issue between them, which I found to be, listen, these two cannot be themselves around each other. That's where it begins and that's where it ends, okay? When Miguel is true to himself in terms of thinking about the future, talking about his doubts, talking about planning, talking about the longevity of this relationship, that makes Lindy's anxiety act up, and then mama is thrown into a whole bunch of stress, struggles, and strife about the future that she don't want to, address, right? And for Lindy, whenever she is her crazy, kooky, absent-minded self that's loud and cusses and does all this stuff, that interferes with this ideal archetype that Miguel had for his future wife, okay? That messes with whatever ideals that he had in his mind for whatever future wife that he would have, right? So when you basically get down to brass tacks, baby, y'all have a problem in being yourselves around each other, okay? And let's think about it. If you cannot be yourself in your marriage, then exactly who are you married to, okay? You're married to an imposter, okay? In the eternal words of Tamia, there is a stranger in my house, okay? If you cannot be yourself in your marriage, then who are you married to, okay? You have to feel some sort of safety in being able to be yourself, being able to show all of who you are, and knowing that that won't turn the other person off and they won't run for the hills. And I don't think either of you have that kind of security. And that's the central tenet in terms of why this is not going to work out. Because when you can't be yourself in your relationship, who are you forced to be? An imposter. And you can't, I always say, you can only be fake for so long before the real you comes out. And it's just going to result in resentment on both sides, which is clearly what we're seeing here, okay? Now let's talk about Miguel being controlling regarding this alleged shit talking with Lindy and her friends. Now, I think we're going to have to call a spade, okay? Because the thing about it is, because y'all can't be who you truly are with each other, there's this kind of like, I don't know, seesaw of controlling nature between the two of you, but more so based on the Miguel side, right? Because listen, if I can't come to you with my concerns without you saying that I'm yelling, that I'm raising my voice, that I'm being crazy, that I'm being, emotional and stuff, then exactly who am I supposed to talk to, okay? Clearly, I can't talk to you. If I can't talk to you, who am I supposed to talk to? I'm either going to keep these emotions inside and let them fester and turn into resentment, or I'm going to talk to my friend. Now listen. In an ideal situation, your friend is a sounding board and a balanced place to put your thoughts, okay? But in the manner in terms of what Lindy came to her friend in that moment, you are literally a listening ear and a pseudo yes man, okay? Because sometimes people, and y'all could agree or disagree in terms of this in the comments, right? But when you come to your friends and your friend is already broken, sometimes that's not the ideal time to come to them with all the truth that you want to give to them in that moment, okay? Sometimes you need to let them cry it out, let them get all the emotions out, let them say what they need to say, and then perhaps the next day we can go with like actionable items and what I truly think about your situation, right? So I truly don't believe, and from what I saw on TV, Lindy was not shit talking that man, okay? She was literally displaying how she has experienced him in these last few weeks and in these last few days in terms of the blow-ups that they've had between. So for Miguel to be talking about, I won't tolerate you over here shit talking me with your friends and stuff, please stop. Please stop it, okay? Because you are not a safe space for my emotions, so they have to go somewhere, okay? And, if I can't talk to you, then I have to talk to them. And if it comes out a certain way, it comes out a certain way. But I'm going to give Lindy credit because she did not go to the lengths that she could have to describe what she has experienced with that man over these last weeks, right? Now, let's move on to Stacia and Nate. And let's talk about Nate moving into Stacia's house. Now, listen. It is very hard being the person that moves into the other spouse's house, okay? The most ideal situation would be if you all have your respective leases, they end, and then you find a place together, right? Because there's no pretense, there's no preconceived notions. It's where, this is our place, we're designing it together, we're building it together, whatever the case may be, okay? Because Nate is coming into this situation in terms of Stacia already, having this house in motion, already picked everything out, already designed everything, and it kind of puts him at a kind of disadvantage in the scenario in terms of where do I fit in this. And I just kept having a thought this entire episode, y'all, but Stacia seemed to want a ready-made husband, a ready-made baby, a ready-made marriage life. And for Nate, I can understand the frustration in terms of where do I fit in this situation, okay? And so when Nate was basically talking to Stacia down to the table and he was like, if we get divorced or if we separate, where do I go? That was a real conversation. Stacia said, listen, on Mad Day, I'm not going to kick you out. I'm not going to say, you got to go. This is my stuff. You can go, you can get out. This is all mine. I don't know. It's easy to say that when things are good, okay? But on Mad Day, you might be totally different. And listen, there's only two solutions I see. And y'all drop down in the comments and let me know if I'm wrong, okay? Solution number one, which will never happen, knowing Stacia, is if you put that man's name on the title of that house. I'm going to pause for dramatic effect, okay? If you put that man's name on the title of that house, he will have security in the situation. Now, you might not have security no more in terms of this man being able to claim half that house if, it all goes to hell in a handbasket, but that would give him it, right? But listen, in all honesty, that's probably not the best solution because it's Stacia's money on the line, Stacia's name on the title and deed, and it's probably not realistic, right? But listen, as I said in the Lindy and Miguel situation, fair exchange ain't no robbery, right? So listen, I think that a more actionable solution would be if, listen, Stacia wanted the prenup. Nate wasn't really on board, but he signed it because, he wanted the relationship to go in a good way. Prenups are supposed to be living, breathing documents that you can amend, okay? At the core of it, it's a contract between two people, which means that there can always be an amendment to it later on. Why don't you make an amendment to the damn prenup contract that says, in the event of separation, estrangement, divorce, XYZ, you give Nate 3 to 6 months in one corner or one, area of the house, and he doesn't immediately have to be worried about being homeless on the street, where he's going to go, and XYZ in the center. Like, it should be a comparable situation for both of you to feel some level of security, right? If the prenup has to be there for Stacia to feel like she's protecting her assets, then in that, it should protect Nate's interest in a certain sense too, right? So listen, y'all drop down in the comments and let me know if you think that seems actionable. But like I said before, I only see two solutions. Either put that man's name on the damn title or deed of the house, or amend that damn prenup. That's the only way he's going to feel any sort of comfort regarding it being Stacia's house and something that he can be kicked out at a moment's notice. Now let's talk about Nate not seeing how they can be fun and take care of kids. I've said this so many times on this channel, but it always begs repeating. People are the sum total of their life's experiences. All that you are and all that you do is a reflection of what you've been through, okay? And the reason why Nate can't see how you can be fun and be a parent is because he's never seen that, okay? Especially on the mother side, okay? Nate was abandoned by his birth mother, then he had the stepmother that apparently that his father ended up divorcing and, that relationship dissolved or whatever. So he views parenting in a more serious mindset than anything that was ever fun because he never saw the fun aspect of it, right? So I don't think Stacia said anything, wrong or anything out of the stretch of the imagination. You should be able to, listen, kids come into your life, okay? You don't come into theirs, all right? So you should be able to develop whatever you think your life as a family unit and your life with children should be, right? So who says you can't take the kid to Mexico? Who says you can't vacation with the child in London and go on trips and have fun and make it a collaborative family thing, okay? Nate is coming from the perspective of he's never seen it, right? And when you've never seen something happen, that's the entire and totality piece of how your decisions are informed surrounding it, okay? So Stacia did nothing wrong. I think she's just gonna have to do some extra work in terms of showing Nate a future and a reality that's been different from what he's experienced, right? So listen, you got to give him some grace in terms of what he's been through and kind of not drag him through the fire in terms of him not being gung-ho on a situation that he's truly never seen. Now let's move on to Krysten and Mitch and talk about Mitch's work meeting or work trip rather, no ring and the pretty girls. Now, regarding the no ring, I really feel that Mitch was wrong for not wearing his ring because I think Mitch has a tendency to overthink everything, right? And in Mitch's mind, if I'm wearing the ring, it starts a conversation. Not necessarily. People, most of the time, unless it, affects them in some sort of substantial way, they're mostly absent-minded most times, okay? And I don't think that a black band or a gold band on your finger would really give that much alarm to your company or the people that you're not really there to be discussing your personal life anyway. If this is a work meeting or work friends or whatever the case may be, like they may say something about it. Oh yeah, I got married. Leave it there. Mitch's problem is that he's so truthful and forthcoming that he kind of overthinks it and feels like he's going to have to give everything at once, right? And that may not be the case, right? It might not require that level of detail, right? So in order to get around the whole conversation or the whole possibility of the conversation, he just takes the ring off entirely, which then triggers Krysten's feelings in terms of, is Mitch in here 100%, right? Now on to the whole thing about the pretty girls. So they're in the car and Krysten asks, when Mitch was on this trip, were there any pretty girls down to the thing? Krysten, honestly and truthfully, baby, there are going to be pretty girls everywhere. Okay, there's going to be pretty girls down to the grocery store. There's going to be pretty girls down to the AutoZone. There's going to be pretty girls down to the museum exhibit. There's going to be pretty girls when you're walking down the street down to the park. There's going to be pretty girls in the lobby of the damn building that you in. There's pretty girls everywhere. So I truly can't decide whether, you were trying to create an argument or trying to elicit some sort of response from Mitch in terms of, yeah, there were pretty girls, but you're the prettiest of them all, and you're the only one that I was thinking about. Y'all drop down in the comments and let me know which option you think she was trying to elicit. But honestly and truthfully, sometimes I feel like Krysten creates issues where there are none sometimes. And that whole were there pretty girls, it just kind of speaks to an inner self-esteem thing, which I guess in a way is kind of Mitch's fault because he did bring up that whole attractiveness thing a while back. But listen, I thought the whole point of the retreat and the bow and arrow was to shoot an arrow through that and dead that issue. So I don't know. It seems like a lot of times with Mitch and Krysten, y'all take 2 steps forward and then y'all take 3 steps back. So y'all drop down in the comments and let me know what you think about that situation. And then Krysten says one of the most pivotal things that she said with Mitch this season. Krysten feels they're not perfect, they're not estranged, but somewhere in the middle, right? And so that's a very good way to sort of end this conversation because it kind of, I don't know. I kind of have 2 ways to think about it, right? Are you ever in a situation where you're mostly perfect with somebody? No, right? And you're not in a situation where you're always estranged. So honestly and truthfully, most people probably find themselves mostly somewhere in the middle in their marriages, their relationships, their boyfriend-girlfriend situation. So I don't really think it's a bad thing, but I do think that Mitch and Krysten have a tendency of having these huge blow-ups, right? Krysten gets a little bit of what she wants in terms of, not really an apology from Mitch, but like kind of a way forward. And then they gloss over all of their problems, right? So I can understand how she feels that they're not perfect. They're not estranged, but they're somewhere in the middle. But 90% of couples are probably, somewhere in that vein too. It's probably a spectrum and they find themselves somewhere in the middle. The problem with Mitch and Krysten is that they gloss over a lot of the important things to talk about because they're kind of trying to keep the peace, in my opinion. And y'all drop down in the comments and let me know if you agree or disagree. But it seems like most of the time with them, they're treading water just until they feel like getting into the next argument. So sometimes the middle is not a bad place to be, but regarding Mitch and Krysten, the middle might be where y'all sink. Sorry, but that's just sometimes how I see it in terms of this situation. But anywho, y'all, I think that's really all I wanted to talk about on this episode. So if you liked what I said, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Follow me on all social media at DatDamnDasher. And until next time, y'all, speak up. Lack of communication is the root of most issues. I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.